that Adil Khan Saab start with the recitation of the Holy Quran.
Assalamu alaikum. Sorry, I was just taking myself off of mute. I'll recite verses 107 through 109 of chapter 21 of the Holy Quran. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن في هذا لبلاغا لقوم عابدين وما أرسلناك إلا رحمة للعالمين قل إنما يوحى إلي أنما إلهكم إله واحد فهل أنتم مسلمون I seek refuge with Allah from Satan the accursed, in the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful. Herein surely is a message for people who worship God. And we have sent thee not but as a mercy for all peoples. Say, surely it has been revealed to me that your God is but one God. Will you then submit? So Multimam Saab Khidmat-e-Khalq will be going a bit more into detail with that in our presentation. I'm serving as a Naib Multimam Khidmat-e-Khalq for Majlis Khidam al-Ahmadiyya. And we have a presentation for you today about service to humanity during the time of coronavirus and what we should be doing as a Majlis, and just going into some of that. So I'm going to share my screen and bring up the presentation. So, sorry. Assalamu alaikum. So, the title of our presentation is Serving Mankind at a Time of Crisis, Emulating the Spirit of 1918. And this really is going into one of the first articles that came out from Al-Hakam regarding coronavirus on March 21st. And Hazur kind of pulled from some of the archives, specifically the book called Tarikh-e-Ahmadiyya. And so we'll just be going into that. So in 1918, as probably a lot more people are aware of nowadays with everything with coronavirus, in 1918, that's when the Spanish flu occurred, and it was very devastating. This was, a much earlier time in terms of the advancement of medicine. So it's recorded that from the CDC website that around 500 million people were infected, or according to CDC, that is about 1/3 of the world's population. 1/3 of the entire population of the earth at that time was infected by the disease, and up to 50 million people then died as a result. And which will be significant to our conversation going forward. In the Indian subcontinent, it's estimated that between 10 to 20 million people died as well of the Spanish flu. And something else, just for some perspective, the amount of people who died as a result of the Spanish flu is on Earth is more than the amount of people who died as a result of World War I. And also, there was less than 1 million people who died in the United States, 675,000. So, the figure that we mentioned in India is also significant, 10 to 20 million people who died, given that the Jamaat's headquarters at that time in 1918 was in Qadian, India. So this was during the Khilafat of Hazrat Khidmat-e-Masih II, also known as Hazrat Muslim Maud Raziyallahu ta'ala anhu. And he was only about 29 years of age, 29 years old at that time. Just having started Khilafat at the young age of 25, but already, obviously, he was a Khalifa chosen by Allah, so he had given the Jamaat some very pertinent guidelines and advice in terms of, how they should deal with the situation. Yeah, so, unfortunately, and it hurts us to say this, but our, beloved Hazrat Muslim Maud, second Khalifa, himself became very ill during the time of the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic. So, so much so to the extent that he actually wrote a will for the Jamaat in case he were to pass away, giving them instructions on what they should do in case, God forbid, that were to happen. And similar to our situation, in which Hazur, our beloved Hazur, Adil Talib bin Nasr al-Aziz, has prescribed some precautions such as homeopathic medicine and camphor, vis-a-vis Vicks, vapor rub, Hazrat the Muslim Maud Raziyallahu ta'ala anhu, he also prescribed, precautions as well, such as drinking cinnamon infused water. And we're giving this presentation to you from the Khidmat-e-Khalq department, so it's very pertinent for us to mention to you that under the guidance of Hazrat Muslim Maud Raziyallahu ta'ala anhu, the Jamaat really was at the forefront of providing service to humanity at this time, at this pretty much unprecedented, devastating time. And the Jamaat would provide service to all people, irrespective of religion, background, creed, anything. So so they would go around, Ahmadi doctors and other workers would go around from village to village, and they even went to the most remote villages to serve. The extent of their service was such that, according to the article that Hazur referred to, not the article, but that book, History of Ahmadiyya, that Hazur referred to in the Al-Hakam article, the Ahmadi Muslim volunteers served to this extent that themselves became sick. They themselves became infected. But in spite of this, they continued to serve the other people who were also suffering from the Spanish flu. So just getting through the first 6 slides, I just wanted to open it up to our audience, our Khuddam, and ask them, what are your guys' experience serving during the time of coronavirus? I know from our own Jamaat, Baltimore Jamaat, we've gone home from home to home for our Jamaat members, and we've delivered homeopathic medicine to them. We've helped in some cases with food. We're setting up a blood drive in our masjid because there's a severe shortage. So does anyone else have some anecdotes to share? And at this point, I'll ask Najibai to kind of help facilitate that process.
So as I hope everybody is still aware from yesterday, we'll continue the same process. We'd like to keep it quick, right? So just go ahead and raise your hands when you have those anecdotes to share, and I'll unmute you right away. And just be quick, just be cognizant of the fact that when you're called upon, we'll unmute you pretty quickly. So after that, we'll open up to Adilbai's question. And if you have anything to share, please do raise your hand now. And that raise your hand feature can be found by clicking Manage Participants, and you'll see the raise your hand feature there.
Yeah, there's been a lot of activity that we've seen on Telegram, images of people serving. So anyone, just feel free to share.
And again, this doesn't have to be how you have served per se. I think as Adil had mentioned, this is just how your majlis has been serving, how Khuddam have been serving. So just go ahead and feel free to share your anecdotes. Okay, so I'm going to come to Ahmadi Muslim 1889. I'm going to unmute you.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Damon Stingo Sahib of Oshkosh Jamaat.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you doing?
So what we have been doing lately is that we of the Oshkosh Jamaats have been assisting a local food pantry with distributing food to cars that line up in front of the building. And when these cars are called upon, we deliver food to them, and we just stock up their cars with food, and then they go.
Jazakallah, thank you.
Does anybody else have anything to share in regards to this question? Okay, so I'm going to come to Ozzy Sheikh. I'm going to unmute you.
Assalamu alaikum, and thank you for selecting me. I'm Aurangzeb Sheikh from the Houston Jamaat. So there was an instance that I remembered from last year. So we were hosting a food festival on campus at the University of Houston. And so there's a lot of safety protocols and things of that nature. You know, you have to stay sanitary, you have to have a fire extinguisher just in case, you know, like if there's a fire that happens or something, it's like right in front of the library. So I noticed in the morning, you know, while I was walking up to the food festival to get started, that one of the students was messing around with the fire extinguisher, and it just went off, and there was like fumes coming out of, you know, it was like yellow color, and it was, so I mean, usually people would run, you know, and things like that to, you know, save themselves, but I don't know, it was my instinct to go inside and grab that fire extinguisher from his hand and to put it in an area where there's not a lot of people. So, you know, so I mean, it was just kind of an instinct to not put myself first, but to put the interest of humanity first. So I found that was, you know, rewarding. I started coughing afterwards, but, you know, I still felt that I kind of did the right thing.
Jazakallah, thank you. Thank you for sharing.
So I don't know, Motem Saab or Alubay, as you would like, we can take as many questions as you'd like, and we can move on. So,
I'll take your guys' guidance.
We could take a few more.
Yes, and again, remember, this is a good forum for Khudam to connect, right? The purpose of this platform is that Khudam should be able to know that what your majlis is doing and what another majlis is doing, and how to bring that all together, and how others can be inspired by what one majlis is doing. So I think, again, feel free. It's not an avenue of bragging or, you know, being showing everybody what you're doing, but it's a good way to inspire your brothers. So if anybody does have anything, please feel free to share. So I'm going to come to Hisham Malik. I'm going to unmute you.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm from Central Jersey Jamaat, and locally, I'm not personally involved in this, but a few Khudam, there's a Khadim whose father owns a restaurant, and in the past few weeks, he's been helping out a poor community by preparing 50 meals a week. And then another Khadim and a Nasir, they go pick up the meals, distribute them in a poor community in New Jersey. They give it to an older lady who knows the community well, and that way they serve the poor communities. And these people are like usually out of work. This is an especially at-risk community. So I thought that's relevant here.
Very inspiring.
Gee, very inspiring. Jazakallah for sharing that.
So next we'll come to Usama Chaudhary. I'm going to unmute you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
I just had a question actually as regard to the blood drive that you mentioned. I know due to the social distancing policy, can we still organize blood drives, or should we do it separately with Khudam throughout the cities? Jazakallah.
Yeah, so Motem Saab, Khidmat-e-Khalq can better speak to it, but I believe also with the one that actually one of our other Naib Motem Amin is organizing. I think the Red Cross is helping facilitate this whole social distancing protocol as well, but Mohtaram Saab can speak better to that.
Yeah, I will go into that in more detail later. If you can hold on for a little bit, I will cover that.
Jesus. So I think we can move on to the next slide then.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll unshare my screen and we can do that, inshallah.
Let me share my screen. Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me fine?
Mohtaram Saab, you're good.
Okay. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. My name is Abdul Nasir. I serve as Mohtaram Khidmat-e-Khalq. So continuing on with this presentation, we are thinking about how to communicate what Huzur Ayadullah Ta'ala bin Nasril Aziz expects of us in terms of serving our community. So Jazakallah to Adil Bhai for giving us a summary and the context of what happened during the 1918 flu and the service of the Jamaat. So now, before I go into some more of the details of what our department is doing in following the directives of Huzur, I wanted to go through a couple of slides where we try to answer the question, why should we serve humanity? So this slide is mostly based off of the address given by Khalifatul Masih V when he inaugurated the Nasser Hospital in Guatemala. So in answering this question, or in explaining this question, why we should serve humanity, Huzur mentioned that this serving humanity is a form of worship of Allah. So he said that our motivation and our desire to serve others is driven entirely by the teachings of Islam. The guiding light for every Muslim is the Holy Quran. So if we look at the Holy Quran, time and again, the Holy Quran instructs us to serve mankind and to fulfill the needs of those who are suffering or those who are deprived. And the Holy Quran tells us that we should be, as Muslims, we should be selfless and we should be consumed by a love for others. And it requires us to be always ready to make sacrifices for the sake of peace and well-being of others. So this is based off of the address given by Khalifatul Masih V at Nasser Hospital, Guatemala. So, and then Adil Bhai in his recitation, he went through this verse where Allah Ta'ala tells us in the Holy Quran, chapter 21, verse 108, that وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ, that the translation is, and we have sent thee not, but as a mercy for all peoples. So this is referring to the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, how Allah Ta'ala says that he was a source of mercy. He is a source of mercy, not only for the Arabs who came to Arabia, the Arabs were at the lowest in terms of their moral standards, but the Holy Prophet ﷺ has been given the title of mercy for whole of mankind, irrespective of time and irrespective of. So he is mercy for us as much as he was a mercy for the Arabs of his time. So here I wanted to share an example from the life of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, where there was an old lady who was carrying heavy baggage, and the Holy Prophet ﷺ went to her to offer his assistance to help her carry her belongings. So as she agreed to it, and as they were walking together, she started talking to the Holy Prophet ﷺ and was warning him that, I've heard about a person called Muhammad, who is a magician, who is a poet, Nauzubillah, that he would make people change their belief in God. So the Holy Prophet ﷺ kept quiet and kept walking with the lady until they reached her home, and he kindly put down her belongings, the belongings of the old lady. And as he was walking away, she asked him, "By the way, what's your name?" And at that point, the Holy Prophet ﷺ told her that he is Muhammad. And the story goes that this was sufficient for her to accept Islam at the time. So here I wanted to um, ask the listeners to share some of their favorite events from the life of the Holy Prophet ﷺ that inspires you, that speaks to you in terms of serving others, in terms of being helpful to others.
So again, and just go ahead and raise your hands for this. And for this one, this is even our theme for the year, the sirat, the life and character of the Holy Prophet ﷺ. So I know everybody knows many examples. So please feel free to share anything that was particularly inspiring for you. So just go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, so I will come to Daniel. I'm going to unmute you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
So the story I wanted to share was before the Hijrah and before the prophethood, when Holy Prophet ﷺ was a young man, and the different tribes of Mecca were having a dispute over who would place the black stone in the reconstruction of the Kaaba. And it was getting very hostile in the situation on who would place the black stone. And they called Holy Prophet ﷺ to settle down who would be able to do so. And he came to a decision that the black stone would be put on a cloth, and the four chieftains of the tribes would each hold a part of the cloth, pick it up to where the black stone would be placed, and then he picked it up after they put it where it would be, and he put it in its place. And it shows that how he was able to break apart an argument and bring people together instead of creating hostilities between them.
Yeah, Jazakallah for sharing that. And if you look at the life of Holy Prophet ﷺ, he was always desirous of creating peace in the society, creating harmony between people.
Okay, so now we'll come to Zad. Zad, I will unmute you now.
Assalamu alaikum. So one of the incidences in the life of Rasulullah Sallallahu that has resonated with me the most is that when he was spreading the message of Islam in the city of Taif, and where he was horribly physically abused, so much so that, they said that his shoes were filled with blood. And then Allah Ta'ala told him that, I'll destroy these people if you so wish, after he was driven out of town. And his example of just how much compassion he had for these people, even though they had physically and verbally abused him and rejected him in every way, but he still prayed for them at the end of the day. And I think in my career, this is very useful. It teaches us how to be compassionate, even though if someone doesn't act compassionately towards you.
Jazakallah. Yeah, that is another very inspiring event from the life of Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. What his compassion towards the people of Taif.
Now we'll come to Suhail Khan. Suhail, I'm going to unmute you now. Suhail Khan, your audio isn't connected, so we'll come back to you if you can get that connected. So we'll come to Ahmadi Muslim 1889 in the meantime.
Assalamu alaikum, Damon Stengel of Oshkosh Jamaat. So the hadith that inspires me, this is taken from the book of Hadith, Shama'il Muhammadiyah. It's a really long hadith, but I'm going to quote a small piece of it that stands out to me the most. So it says that Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu said, I asked my father, which is Ali, regarding the manner in which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam entered the house. He replied, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam entered the house, he distributed his time into 3 portions. He spent a portion for Allah in devotion, performing salat, etc., a portion towards his family, fulfilling their duties, i.e., laughing, speaking, inquiring about their welfare, etc., and a portion for himself, resting, etc. He distributed his personal portion in 2, one for himself and one for the people, in such a manner that the near ones among the Sahaba radiallahu anhum came to visit him. So this hadith is inspiring to me because, we tend to look at the bigger stuff, but what causes the bigger stuff to happen is really the smaller things, like the everyday things that we got to think about. This is exactly what the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam focused on, is on even on small things. It's basically a form of sadaqah, and he did it with the fullest of his intention, because that's how much love for humanity that he had. I mean, I think that's what many of us should instill within ourselves, is that even on the minor things, everything we do should be like Khidmat-e-Khalq, because one of the things for Islam is not just serving God but also serving humanity. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah. Jazakallah for sharing that hadith with us, or the event. So I think, Mutum Sahib, we can move on to the next. We'll move on to the next slide.
Yeah,
So here so the purpose of those slides were to give an idea of why we need to serve humanity. So now I wanted to go into a discussion of how can we implement what Islam teaches us, what Holy Prophet ﷺ has taught us in serving humanity. So through the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and then through the promised Messiah Islam, and through the Khalifa of the time, we learn that we understand that serving humanity is important. So how can we implement this in our daily lives? I wanted to have a discussion around this. So before going into a discussion of concrete activities that we can do, I had this question for you, that it's a type of a survey. So the question is, I wanted to get an idea of what challenges do you face in serving your community. So if you could go to this webpage, it's menti.com, and then you can enter in this code, and then you'll see the question, and you can enter your answers there. So there's an option to enter four different things. You can enter 1 if you like, or 4. So I wanted to get you guys' opinion on what challenges do you face. It can be anything from, you have, let's say you don't find time to do it, or you feel like you'll do too little. I'm just giving an example, but I want you to give your honest opinion on what challenges do you face in terms of serving, in terms of devoting time and going out to serve our communities.
So Mutum Sahib will display that on the screen as well. So again, encourage everybody to go ahead now and go to this Menti site, and here's a code again on the top of the screen, and you can go ahead and enter in your words, and they'll pop up on the screen as you come. It'll be nice. Everybody can see their contributions on the screen in live time.
So we have 13 responses so far. Let's try to get to 30. And then
Alhamdulillah, Motim Saab, looks like you gave a goal and they came quickly to it.
Yeah. Okay, let me just download this result. Okay, so this is the word cloud. Can everyone see the word cloud that was generated based off of the responses? So time is a big one, I see. Then there's fear, there's laziness, there's social distancing, there's motivation. So fear, yeah, I think I went through that. Racism. Okay, that's I wanted to get a feeling for what are the challenges. Hopefully we can address some of them as we go through here. So moving on to the next slide. So so here I wanted to give you an overview of some of our initiatives that you can participate in. And one of the purpose of this Connect program was to remind you guys to participate in it. So this is the initiative where we had sent out a form through email to all the Khuddam. You can also access it at this short URL at the bottom here. So the purpose of this form is you write down your name here, your phone number, your contact details, and then pass it on to your neighbor. He or she can be someone who is elderly, someone you think will be particularly in need of assistance in terms of shopping for groceries, or just calling them to check up on how they're doing. It could be anyone. It could be a doctor who is working at the hospital and is quarantining from his family, so he needs help. So this is an initiative where we remind the point is to reach out to your neighbors, send them this form, and tell them that you are there to assist them if there is need. So here I wanted to also put this saying of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that the best neighbor to Allah is the best to his neighbors. So if you look into the teachings of Islam, the rights of neighbors is so important and so critical to us as Muslims. So this is one of the initiatives where you can reach out to your neighbors, establish contact with them, and seek to assist them. And then another initiative that we have is so there is this web page, muslimyouth.org, based off of muslimyouth.org, where anyone can go in. So anyone, Ahmadi or non-Ahmadi, they can go to that web page and request assistance. So the areas that we serve are the 60 or 62 locations of Majlis Khuddam al-Ahmadiyya that we have all throughout the USA. So people in those areas who are close to where Khuddam are, they can ask for assistance, and we can try to meet that need. There is also, this is being done in collaboration with Humanity First USA. So people can also call this number here at the bottom to ask for assistance, be it in terms of delivery of supplies like groceries or medicines or so on, anything of that nature. So how could you participate in this? You can help get the word out of this initiative to your friends, or if you know elderly who are living alone, or those who are particularly needy, you can get this information to them and ask them to reach out to us through it. And another way that you can help out and participate in this initiative is when your local Nazim or local Qaid contacts you to request you to deliver some items I hope that you can volunteer to do that. So Alhamdulillah, through all our efforts so far, we have served over 2,000 families throughout this crisis, be it delivering food or delivering medicines and so on. So another way that you can serve your community, serve the people around you, is by volunteering at food banks. So food banks are under high strain at the moment because there is a large increase in demand. But at the same time, there are fewer volunteers due to the health crisis that's going on. With the unemployment numbers that's been going up, more and more people will turn to the food pantries to help to get their daily meals. So there is really a high demand. So to give an example, this organization called Food Pantry of New Orleans, which typically they would serve 3,300 families a month during a normal time of the year. But at the moment, due to the coronavirus crisis, they are serving 9,000 families a month. So any food pantry near you, they would need help in terms of sorting food. So what happens is people donate food to them, to all these food pantries. So they need help with sorting that food, making sure that the food is of good quality that can be given to others, and sorting out, separating vegetables from fruits and so on. So there's a lot of demand for volunteers currently. So this picture is from an activity that Houston Kodam did a few days ago, where they went to a neighborhood food pantry to help sort out food for the needy. So you can find out about food banks near you by going to either of these links. You can go to either of these links and enter your zip code, and it will pull up a list of food banks near you. You can call them or go online to the web page of the food bank and sign up to volunteer. So another initiative that MK is partnering with both Jamaat as well as Red Cross and Humanity First is to collect blood during this time. So there was a lot of blood drives that were cancelled as a result of the current health crisis. Thousands of them were cancelled. So as you can imagine, blood is necessary to save lives for people undergoing critical surgery or treatments and so on. So there is a severe shortage and there is a large need for it. So what we are doing is the ask is for you to sign up at this link. If you're able to donate blood, if you could go to this link. This is the shortened form of the same URL at the bottom. And there you can pledge to donate blood. So all you do is sign up at that link, you pledge that you will give blood, and then you enter your zip code and it will pull up the blood drives near you. So Jamaat is also planning to organize about 20 or so blood drives at our mosques. So that will happen later this month, inshallah, or in next couple of weeks. So you can either wait for that, or preferably you can go to some blood bank that's already open and donate blood. So there was a question from Osama Bhai about how we can donate blood. So blood donations, the Red Cross is taking precautions to make sure that there is social distancing. That is, we adhere to that. We keep by social distancing, and they make sure that the place is wiped down, and they will make sure that it's done in a healthy way. So we can still donate blood, keeping within precautions. So for this campaign called Sleeves Up, please do go to this webpage, pledge to donate blood, as well as reach out to your contacts and ask them to pledge to donate blood. So it's not location dependent. You can ask any friend anywhere to basically walk into a blood bank near him and then donate blood. So then this was the concluding part of it. So with prayers, as Huzur has reminded us, we should continue praying for the health and safety of our volunteers as well as our families and ourselves. And we also ask that with prayers, you take precautions when you go out to volunteer. Make sure you keep adequate distance between you and other volunteers. 6 feet is the current guideline. Wear masks, gloves, etc. And if you fall into a high risk category, or you routinely come into contact with one of the groups below, so that is people with high risk of severe illness due to COVID-19, older adults, groups at high risk due to illnesses such as cancer or diabetes or other illnesses, people with asthma, people with HIV. So we're requesting that you take additional precautions. So then here I wanted to, Alhamdulillah, all this work is done by a strong team of volunteers. These are the members of our national team, Khidmat-e-Khalq national team, together with the regional Nazimin and the local Nazimin. So Jazakallah to them, Jazakallah to everyone for sharing their inspirational stories. So I can take questions if you have any.
So if anybody has any questions, go ahead and raise your hand. But I think that I actually had a question with Musab, if I can ask.
Okay.
So I think a lot of people, especially in regards to the Khidmat-e-Khalq service now, volunteering, people are now somewhat scared of leaving their homes or going out to do this volunteer service. Now we see people wearing masks and gloves all the time. They're scared to go out and donate blood. So can you please mention, and I think that was really emphasized by you previously as well, but I think that maybe you can share some comments about the health guidelines for this, the proper ways of practicing this, staying safe when volunteering, and maybe is it fanatical to think that we are in danger by going out, or is it rational, and what should we be doing?
Yeah, I mean, of course, with the government guidelines, we need to be really careful when we go out, and we need to limit our exposure to people outside your home. So, but at the same time, I think there is a lot of need in our community. You've heard about the doctors, the grocery store workers. They are still going out and working, and that work is critical. So the same way, taking care of the needy in our society, those who may not have meals to eat at this time due to the situation that they are going through. So it's equally important for us to be able to serve them and come to their assistance. So having said that, yeah, this was one of the things that was mentioned in the word cloud here, fear. So having said that, and if you look at the summary that Adil Bhai gave of Huzur's article, Huzur also emphasized the point that many Ahmadis, even though they were ill themselves, they went out to serve. So that means they put themselves on the line to serve. So for those who are healthy and those who are able to do so, I think we should do that. We should, of course, wearing our masks, keeping distance, wearing gloves, washing our hands, taking all those precautions. We should, if you are in good health, we should follow the advice of Huzur and be there to serve our community. Did I answer your question?
Indeed, Motam Saab. You showed us that our duty never actually stops. It's a good reminder. So I think as Motam Saab had mentioned that he'll take questions or comments as well, Motam Saab.
Indeed.
So if anybody has any questions or comments, please go ahead and raise your hand. And again, we're using the hard cutoff time of 8 o'clock to break for Salat. So we have about 10 minutes. So please feel free to use this time to ask your questions, and don't wait too much. So I'm going to come first to Suhail Khan. I'm going to unmute you.
Assalamu alaikum, Najib bhai. Can you hear me?
Walaikum salam. Yes.
Firstly, I just wanted to say Jazakallah, and may God bless you, Nasir, by your team for the work that you do. MashaAllah, it's a fantastic effort in these times, and we all pray and we all have you in our thoughts. So thank you. Also, I just wanted to go back. Previously, you were asking a question about a time in maybe the Prophet Muhammad's life whereby he was able to serve humanity. And my son Musa had a time that he wanted to narrate. So if you just bear with me.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
One thing that I heard was that when the Holy Prophet went for walks outside, he went past his balcony where a lady threw trash at him, and it happened on and on for many days. And so once he walked past and he noticed that the lady had not thrown trash at him, and he was interested, so he went upstairs to see the lady, and she was sick. So he cared for her, even though she had given him a tough time. And so that's why serving humanity is important.
Yeah, Jazakallah for sharing that story. That's, of course, one of the events or stories from the life of Holy Prophet ﷺ, which is very inspiring. That even though someone would do harm to him, but when it came to the time of that person's need, the Holy Prophet ﷺ was there for them.
Jazakallah Musa bhai and Suhail bhai for that. So we'll come next to Muhammad Arshad. I'm going to unmute you now.
Assalamu alaikum, Muhammad sir.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Yeah, I have a question, Muhammad sir. These leaflets for neighbors, can we drop in the letterbox, or we knocking the door and giving them?
So,
is it legal?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, is it legal that we can drop in the letterbox?
That's a good question. Yeah, we cannot drop in the letterbox. What we could do is either drop it at their door.
Yep.
Or you can drop it in their, car wiper or on top of their car.
Right.
That's what I would encourage.
Okay, Jazakallah.
Jazakallah.
Any other questions?
No, Jazakallah.
So then, also in going back to this word cloud, time stands out in terms of the question I asked that, what are the challenges you face in serving your community? Time is a big challenge. I mean, life in the Western world is very fast paced, but I think if we reflect over the teachings of Islam, to complete worship of Allah Ta'ala, it's very important to serve His creation as well. So I think it goes together that we need to find time to do our salat, our worship of Allah Ta'ala, and then also find time to serve Allah Ta'ala's creation.
So we'll take another minute, and I guess we can wait for another minute for questions. If not, we can wrap up the session. If anybody has any questions who's following on YouTube as well, feel free to ask them in the YouTube comment section, and we'll ask them here as well.
Yeah, questions, or even if you have any inspiring events that you are familiar with in terms of serving, do share it because it motivates all of us.
If there's no more questions or comments, I think we can wrap up.
Okay.
So Jazakallah, I want to say Jazakallah especially to Mohtam Saab, Khidmat-e-Khalq, and Adil Bhai for taking the time out to speak to everyone today and being a part of this program. Jazakallah, we learned a lot, and I think Mohtam Saab really did an excellent job emphasizing the fact that even though a lot of our daily lives and our daily commitments have changed, that doesn't excuse us from our commitment to our service to humanity. And I think Mohtam Saab did a fantastic job reminding us that. So in the end, we'll just close this session out. This is a reminder that the 9 p.m. session will begin promptly at 9 o'clock with the National Amud Talaba Department. The department will be presenting in regards to the change in your education platform. So all students, whether you yourself are in high school, middle school, college, post-grad, please, I would encourage you to join. Any parents of children as well. I think that a lot of parents are now struggling with the fact that their children are home and away from the classroom, and there's a fear that they're losing from that education opportunity. So we have a few experts coming in to discuss that matter with us and discuss what we should be doing, what parents should be doing, what students should be doing to best use this time to learn something new and then stay on top of their education. There are also questions in regards to standardized tests. So we'll also be presenting information about that. So please do join that session. It'll be really useful for you as well. Jazakallah to everybody for joining this session, and Jazakallah everyone for your time. So again, we'll take this hour now. Everyone is encouraged to please offer the Maghrib Salat after the session closes, and do whatever commitments you have. And please join back again at 9 p.m. Eastern time for the session with the National Murtalaba Department. Jazakallah again to Mohtam Saab.
Jazakallah for organizing this activity.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.